Document. Part 1 of, They Turned on Humanity Now, We're Stripping Their Worlds, Bare, The sun was setting over the rolling fields of grain, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Bill Harper stood at the edge of his farm, wiping sweat from his brow with a dirty sleeve. The air smelled of earth and fresh crops, a scent that always reminded him of home. For years, he had worked this land on Nova Terra, one of humanity's newest colonies. It wasn't much, but it was enough for him, Karen, and their son, Jake. Life here was simple, peaceful even. That was before everything changed. Karen called out from the house, her voice carrying across the field. "Bill, dinner's ready." She waved a hand, her figure silhouetted against the warm light spilling out of the windows. He smiled faintly and turned to head back when something caught his eye, a strange flicker in the sky. At first he thought it might be a bird or some kind of atmospheric distortion. But, as he squinted, the flicker grew brighter, sharper. It wasn't natural. "Karen," Bill shouted, his tone sharp enough to make her pause mid-step. "Get inside now." She didn't question him. Living on the frontier meant you learned to trust instincts. By the time she disappeared into the house, the flicker had resolved into a shape, a sleek, metallic craft descending rapidly. It wasn't human-made. Even from a distance, Bill recognized the design. The veil. His stomach tightened. What were they doing here? This farmland was miles away from any military installation or strategic location. There was no reason for them to come here. The ship hovered low, its engines kicking up clouds of dust that stung Bill's eyes and made breathing difficult. He shielded his face with an arm and backed toward the house. Just as he reached the porch, the door burst open behind him. Karen grabbed his arm, pulling him inside. "What is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's the veil," Bill said grimly. "I don't know why they're here, but we need to stay quiet." Jake peeked out from behind Karen's leg, his wide eyes filled with curiosity rather than fear. "Are they friends, Dad?" Bill hesitated. Friends. That word used to fit. The Veil had been humanity's allies for decades, sharing advanced technology and helping colonize new worlds. They were teachers, guides, partners in progress. But lately, things had shifted. Rumors spread about tensions rising between humans and the Veil. Some said the aliens saw humanity's rapid expansion as a threat. Others claimed it was just politics. Nothing serious. No one imagined it would come to this. Before Bill could answer, a loud boom shook the house. The windows rattled violently, and Jake clung to Karen's leg, whimpering. Outside, flashes of light illuminated the dusk like miniature suns. Explosions. The sound of screaming followed, distant but unmistakable. Panic surged through Bill's chest. Whatever the Veil wanted, it wasn't peaceful. "Stay down," Bill ordered, pushing Karen and Jake toward the basement door. "Go." Karen didn't argue. She scooped Jake into her arms and hurried down the narrow stairs, leaving Bill alone in the kitchen. He grabbed a rifle from the closet, not that it would do much good against alien weapons, and took position by the window. Peering outside, he saw chaos unfolding. More ships descended from the sky, firing indiscriminately at the surrounding farms. Neighbors ran in every direction, trying to escape, but there was nowhere safe to go. The Veil moved with cold efficiency, cutting down anyone who crossed their path. One of the ships landed near Bill's barn, its hatch opening with a hiss. Figures emerged, tall and slender, their bodies covered in shimmering exoskeletons. Their faces were hidden behind smooth, featureless masks, giving them an eerie, insect-like appearance. Bill clenched his jaw, fighting back rage. How could they do this? After everything they'd shared, after all the trust humanity had placed in them, how could they betray them like this? A sudden movement drew his attention. Across the field, he spotted Tom, a neighbor and friend, dragging his injured wife toward the woods. Bill's heart sank. If Tom made it to the trees, maybe he'd have a chance. But then a beam of blue light shot out from one of the veil weapons, striking Tom square in the back. He collapsed instantly, his body crumpling like a marionette with its strings cut. His wife screamed, reaching for him. But another blast silenced her forever. Bill's hands trembled as he gripped the rifle tighter. He wanted to fight, to do something, anything. But what could one man do against an entire army? Still, he couldn't just stand there and watch, not while people were dying. Taking a deep breath, he aimed the rifle at the nearest veil soldier and pulled the trigger. The bullet ricocheted harmlessly off the alien's armor, drawing its attention instead. The veil tilted its head, studying the house with unnatural stillness. Then it raised its weapon. Bill ducked just as the wall exploded inward, sending shards of wood and plaster flying. Heat seared his skin as he scrambled away from the wreckage. Smoke filled the room, making it hard to see or breathe. Coughing, he crawled toward the basement door, praying Karen and Jake were still safe. Behind him, heavy footsteps echoed on the splintered floorboards. The veil were inside. Reaching the door, Bill yanked it open and practically fell down the stairs. Karen was waiting at the bottom, clutching Jake tightly. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with terror. "We have to leave," she whispered urgently. "There's a tunnel that leads to the old storm shelter." Bill nodded, though his mind raced. The storm shelter was half a mile away through dense forest. Could they make it without being seen? Did they even have a choice? Above them, the footsteps grew louder, accompanied by strange, guttural sounds that sent chills down his spine. The veil were searching the house. "Let's go," Bill said, grabbing Karen's hand. Together, they rushed into the narrow tunnel, the dim light from a single bulb casting long shadows on the walls. Jake clung to his mother, tears streaming down his cheeks. Bill tried to comfort him with a reassuring pat on the shoulder, but his own fear made the gesture feel hollow. They moved quickly, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the confined space. Every creak and groan of the wooden supports overhead felt deafening. Time seemed to stretch endlessly, each second heavier than the last. Finally, they emerged into the cool night air, the storm shelter looming ahead like a dark tomb. Bill ushered Karen and Jake inside, sealing the heavy metal door behind them. For a moment, there was silence. The only sound was the frantic beating of their hearts. Then, from somewhere far away, came the unmistakable roar of vengeance. The Veil ships were leaving. Whether they thought they'd finished the job or simply moved on to another target, Bill didn't know. All he knew was that they were alive for now. Karen hugged Jake close, rocking him gently as he sobbed into her shoulder. Bill slumped against the wall, exhaustion washing over him. His hands were shaking, his mind replaying the horrors he'd witnessed. The Veil had turned on them, betrayed them, destroyed everything they'd built together. And for what? Fear, greed, revenge. He didn't have answers, only questions and a burning determination to survive. Whatever happened next, Bill vowed silently, they would fight back. Because if the Veil thought humanity would roll over and die, they were wrong. Dead wrong. End document. *** document. Part 2 of They Turned on Humanity. Now we're stripping their worlds bare. ***. The storm shelter was dark and damp, the air thick with the smell of earth and rust. Bill sat on the cold floor, his back against the metal wall, staring blankly at the flickering light of a small lantern. Karen sat nearby, holding Jake close as he slept fitfully, his breathing shallow and uneven. The boy's face twitched in his dreams, haunted by the horrors they had barely escaped. Outside, the night was eerily quiet, broken only by the occasional groan of the wind through the trees. Bill's mind raced. He kept replaying the attack, the explosions, the screams, the cold efficiency of the Veil soldiers. How could they do this? For years, humanity had trusted them, relied on their guidance, shared their worlds. And now, without warning, they turned. It didn't make sense. Or maybe it did. Maybe humanity had been too trusting, too eager to take what the veil offered without asking questions. Bill clenched his fists, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Trust got people killed. Karen broke the silence first. What are we going to do? Her voice was soft but firm, carrying the weight of her own fear and determination. Bill hesitated. We survive, he said finally. For now, that's all we can do. She nodded, though her eyes betrayed doubt. But where do we go? They'll come back. If not tonight, then tomorrow, or the day after. They'll hunt us down. He knew she was right. Staying here wasn't an option, but leaving meant risking everything. They had no weapons, no supplies, no way to fight back against the veil. Still, staying put felt like waiting for death. Bill sighed and leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. We need help, he admitted reluctantly. If there are others out there, survivors, we find them? Together, maybe we stand a chance. The next morning, they emerged cautiously from the shelter, scanning the horizon for any sign of the veil. The fields were scorched, the crops reduced to ash. Smoke still rose from distant fires, curling into the gray sky. The farmhouses they once called home were nothing more than charred skeletons, their roofs caved in and walls crumbling. Bill felt a pang of grief, but pushed it aside. There was no time for mourning. They moved quickly, sticking to the tree line to avoid being seen. Every sound made them freeze, the snap of a twig, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird. Each noise could have been the veil returning. After hours of walking, they reached the edge of a forest, where the landscape opened into a wide plain dotted with abandoned vehicles and debris. Among the wreckage, they spotted movement. Stay here, Bill whispered to Karen, handing her the rifle. Keep Jake behind you. She nodded, clutching the weapon tightly as Bill crept forward. As he drew closer, he saw figures huddled around a makeshift fire. Refugees, survivors. His heart leaped with hope, but caution kept him low, hidden behind a pile of rubble. He counted 6 of them, men, women, even a child. Their faces were streaked with dirt, their clothes torn and bloodied. One man stood watch, holding a crude spear fashioned from a broken piece of rebar, taking a deep breath. Bill stepped into view, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. Hey, he called out, his voice hoarse from disuse. We're not armed. The man with the spear tensed, pointing the weapon at Bill. Who are you? He demanded, his tone sharp and wary. My name's Bill Harper, he said calmly, keeping his hands raised. This is my family. We survived the attack last night. We're looking for others. The man studied him for a long moment, before lowering the spear slightly. You alone? No, Bill replied. My wife and son are back in the trees. We thought you might be, well, you know. The man nodded, signaling to the others. A woman approached cautiously, carrying a pot of water. Come, sit, she said gently. You look like you've been through hell. Bill hesitated, then joined them, waving for Karen and Jake to follow. The group introduced themselves quietly, like Sarah, Mike, and Ellie rolled off their tongues, each one carrying a story of loss and survival. They had banded together after fleeing their homes, scavenging what they could to stay alive. None of them understood why the Veil had attacked. All they knew was that humanity was under siege. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of purple and black, the conversation turned to what came next. We can't stay here, Mike said, his voice rough with frustration. It's only a matter of time before they find us. They'll come for us, Sarah added, her arms wrapped protectively around her knees. They always do. Bill frowned. Then we fight back. The group fell silent, staring at him as if he'd suggested jumping off a cliff. Fight back? Ellie asked, incredulous. With what? Rocks? Sticks? You saw what they did to our homes, our families. We don't stand a chance. We didn't, Bill corrected her. But if we work together, if we find others, maybe we can hit them where it hurts. Hit them hard enough that they think twice about coming after us again. Mike shook his head. That's suicide. Even if we found weapons, even if we managed to hurt them, they'd wipe us out in retaliation. You saw how fast they moved, how precise they were. We're talking about aliens with technology we can't even comprehend. And yet here we are, Bill shot back. Still breathing, still alive. If we give up now, if we just wait for them to pick us off one by one, then what's the point? Why bother surviving at all? His words hung heavy in the air. No one spoke for a long moment. Finally, Sarah broke the silence. There's a place, she said softly. A base, on the moon. I heard about it before everything went to hell. Some kind of secret military outpost. If anyone's fighting back, it's them. Bill's eyes narrowed. How do you know about it? I overheard some soldiers talking back at my colony, she explained. They said it was supposed to be a fallback position, if things went south. Something called Luna Base Alpha. Luna Base Alpha. The name sparked a glimmer of hope in Bill's chest. If such a place existed, if there were people organizing resistance against the Veil, then maybe they had a chance. Maybe they weren't completely alone. We go there, Bill declared. It's our best shot. Karen squeezed his arm, her expression a mix of fear and determination. It's dangerous, she said. Getting to the moon won't be easy. Not without a ship or fuel or anything. We'll figure it out, Bill replied firmly. One step at a time. The group debated the plan late into the night, weighing the risks and rewards. In the end, most agreed to join Bill and his family. They couldn't afford to split up, not with the Veil hunting them. Together, they pooled their meager resources, a few cans of food, a map, a couple of knives, and set out at dawn. Their journey took them across barren plains and through dense forests, avoiding open roads and settlements. Along the way, they encountered other survivors, some willing to join, others too broken to care. Each new face brought both relief and dread. More people meant more strength, but also more mouths to feed, more lives to protect. Days turned into weeks. Supplies dwindled. Tempers flared, but they pressed on, driven by desperation and the faint hope of finding sanctuary. Then, one evening, as they camped near the ruins of an old spaceport, they stumbled upon something unexpected. Shuttle. Small and battered, its hull scorched and dented. It looked like it had seen better days, but it was intact, functional. Even. Mike ran his hand along the side of the craft, awe and disbelief etched on his face. Do you think it works? He asked, glancing at Bill. Bill didn't answer immediately. Instead, he climbed inside, inspecting the controls. The dashboard lit up dimly, responding to his touch. It's got power, he muttered, his heart pounding, and fuel. Enough to get us to the moon. The group erupted into cheers, their exhaustion momentarily forgotten. For the first time in weeks, they allowed themselves to believe that survival was possible. That somewhere out there, humanity was fighting back. That somewhere, someone was waiting for them, as the engines roared to life, and the shuttle lifted. Off the ground, Bill stared out the window at the shrinking planet below. Earth burned brightly in the distance, a reminder of everything they had lost. But ahead of them lay the unknown and, perhaps, just perhaps, a chance to reclaim what had been taken. End document. *** document. Part 3 of They Turned on Humanity Now. We're stripping their worlds bare. ***. The shuttle shuddered as it broke through the atmosphere, the hum of its engines filling the cramped cabin. Bill gripped the controls tightly, his knuckles, white sweat trickling down his forehead despite the chill of space. He wasn't a pilot by trade, but desperation had forced him to learn quickly. The others sat in silence behind him, their faces pale and drawn, staring out the small windows at the vast expanse of stars. For many of them, this was their first time leaving Earth, or what remained of it. Karen held Jake close, her arms wrapped protectively around him. The boy pressed his face against the glass, wide-eyed with wonder. "Is that the moon?" he asked, pointing to the glowing orb growing larger in the distance. "Yes, buddy," Bill replied, forcing a smile. "That's where we're going." Jake looked up at him, his voice soft, but tinged with hope. "Do you think they'll help us?" Bill hesitated. He didn't have an answer. All they had was a name, Luna Base. Alpha had a fragile thread of belief that someone there might be fighting back against the Veil, but even if the base existed, there was no guarantee it would welcome them. What if it was abandoned? What if the Veil had already found it? These thoughts gnawed at him, but he pushed them aside. They couldn't afford doubt now. As the shuttle approached the moon, its surface came into sharp focus. Craters stretched endlessly across the gray landscape, interrupted only by jagged mountains and deep valleys. And then, almost hidden among the shadows, they spotted a cluster of domes connected by narrow tunnels, their metallic surfaces glinting faintly in the sunlight. "Luna Base Alpha. There," Sarah exclaimed, leaning forward in her seat. "It's real." Relief washed over the group, but it was short-lived. As the shuttle descended, alarms began blaring inside the cabin. Red lights flashed, and a robotic voice announced, "Unauthorized approach detected. Prepare for interception." "What does that mean?" Mike demanded, panic rising in his voice. "It means they know we're here," Bill muttered, gripping the controls tighter. "Hold on." The shuttle rocked violently as something slammed into its side, a defensive drone, sleek and menacing, firing warning shots to force them away. Bill maneuvered the craft, dodging the blasts as best he could. His heart pounded as he searched for a safe landing spot near the base. Finally, he spotted an open area just outside the perimeter and brought the shuttle down hard, skidding to a stop. "Everyone out," Bill shouted, unbuckling his harness and grabbing the rifle they'd salvaged from the storm shelter. The others followed suit, scrambling out of the shuttle as more drones closed in. Bright beams of light illuminated the area, pinning them in place. A loudspeaker crackled to life. "Identify yourselves immediately, or face elimination." Bill raised his hands, shouting back, "We're human. Survivors from Novaterra, please, we need your help." For a moment, there was silence. Then the gates of the base opened, and a squad of soldiers emerged, clad in sleek armor and carrying advanced weapons. At their head was a woman with sharp features and piercing eyes. Her uniform bore the insignia of a commander. She stepped forward, her weapon trained on Bill. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice firm but not unkind. "My name's Bill Harper," he replied, lowering his hands slowly. "This is my family, and these are survivors from the colonies. The Veil attacked us. We barely escaped." The commander studied him for a long moment before lowering her weapon. "I'm Commander Lisa Monroe," she said. "Follow me." The group exchanged wary glances, but obeyed, following Lisa and her soldiers into the base. Inside, the domes were bustling with activity. Scientists worked at consoles, analyzing data and running simulations. Engineers repaired damaged equipment, while medics tended to wounded personnel. It was clear that Luna Base Alpha was a hub of resistance, though one stretched thin by constant battles. Lisa led them to a conference room, where she gestured for them to sit. "Tell me everything," she said, taking a seat across from Bill. "Start from the beginning," Bill recounted. Their story, the betrayal of the Veil, the destruction of their homes, their journey to the moon. Lisa listened intently, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. "We've been tracking the Veil's movements," she explained. "Their attacks aren't random. They're targeting key resource sites, mining operations, energy plants, anything that fuels our expansion. It's like they're trying to starve us out." "But why?" Karen asked, her voice trembling. "Why would they do this after everything they gave us?" Lisa sighed. "We don't fully understand their motives. Some believe it's fear. They see humanity's rapid growth as a threat to their dominance. Others think it's greed, that they want those resources for themselves. Either way, we can't let them win. Bill leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Then fight back. Hit them where it hurts. Take what they value most. Lisa raised an eyebrow. And what exactly do you propose we take? Their resources, Bill replied without hesitation. If they're attacking us to strip us bare, why shouldn't we do the same to them? Raid their mining colonies, sabotage their supply lines, make them pay for what they've done. The room fell silent. The others stared at Bill, some nodding in agreement, others looking uneasy. Lisa studied him carefully, weighing his words. Finally, she spoke. It's risky, she admitted, but it might work. We've been planning something similar, though on a smaller scale. If we strike fast and hard, we could cripple their operations. Then let us help, Bill said firmly. We've got nothing left to lose. Lisa hesitated, then nodded. All right, but this isn't going to be easy. You'll need training, gear, and a solid plan. Are you ready for that? Bill glanced at Karen and Jake, then at the rest of the group. They had come so far, endured so much. Turning back wasn't an option. We're ready, he said. Over the next few days, the survivors settled into life at Luna Base Alpha. Bill and Mike underwent intense combat training, learning how to use advanced weaponry and navigate hostile environments. Karen joined a team of scientists, helping analyze data from intercepted Veil transmissions. Even Jake found a role, assisting engineers with simple tasks and bringing a sense of normalcy to the grim surroundings. Meanwhile, Lisa assembled a strike team for their first mission, a raid on a Veil mining colony orbiting a gas giant. The operation would be led by Ryan Scott, a skilled pilot with a reputation for daring maneuvers. Bill and Mike were assigned to accompany him, along with a small squad of soldiers. On the eve of the mission, Bill found himself standing alone in one of the observation domes, staring out at the endless void of space. Karen joined him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. You're worried, she said softly. He nodded. What if we fail? What if we get everyone killed? She smiled faintly. You've never been one to give up, Bill. Not when it mattered. Trust yourself. Trust the team. Her words gave him strength, but the weight of responsibility still pressed heavily on his chest. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about vengeance, justice, and proving that humanity wouldn't go quietly into the night. The next morning, the strike team gathered in the hangar, preparing for launch. Ryan gave them a quick briefing, outlining the plan. They would infiltrate the mining colony, disable its defenses, and extract valuable energy crystals before retreating. It was a straightforward mission, but nothing involving the Veil ever went according to plan. As the shuttle lifted off, Bill took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. The journey to the gas giant was tense, each passing second bringing them closer to danger. When they finally arrived, the mining colony loomed in the distance, a massive structure floating amidst swirling clouds of hydrogen and helium. This is it, Ryan said, his voice calm but focused. Let's show them what happens when you mess with humanity. The shuttle docked silently, and the team disembarked, moving swiftly through the dimly lit corridors of the colony. Alarms blared moments later, alerting the Veil to their presence. Chaos erupted as soldiers clashed with alien guards, beams of light cutting through the darkness. Bill fired his weapon, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he fought alongside his teammates. Despite the odds, they succeeded. The energy crystals were secured, and the team retreated to the shuttle just as reinforcements arrived. As they sped away from the colony, explosions lighting up the sky behind them, Bill allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction. They had struck back. They had taken something precious from the Veil, but the victory came at a cost. Megan, one of the soldiers, sacrificed herself to cover their escape, buying the team precious seconds. Her death hit Ryan hard, leaving him shaken and angry. Back at Luna Base Alpha, the mood was somber as they mourned her loss. Still, the mission proved that humanity could fight back, that they could turn the tables on the Veil. And as Bill stood among his comrades, watching the stars shimmer beyond the dome, he knew this was only the beginning. End document. *** document. Part 4 of They Turned on Humanity Now Where? Stripping their worlds bare ***. The aftermath of the raid left a strange mix of emotions at Luna Base Alpha. On one hand, there was pride in what they had accomplished. The successful strike against the Veil mining colony proved that humanity could fight back. On the other hand, the loss of Megan weighed heavily on everyone, especially Ryan. He spent most of his time alone, staring out at the stars or tinkering with the shuttle's engines, avoiding conversation. The others gave him space, understanding. That grief wasn't something you could rush. Bill tried to focus on the bigger picture. They had captured valuable energy crystals, resources that could power their operations for months. Scientists worked around the clock analyzing the crystals, testing their properties and figuring out how to use them effectively. Karen was part of this effort, her mind sharp and curious as she studied the data. Late at night, when Bill joined her in the lab, he saw the spark in her eyes, a mixture of excitement and determination. "This is incredible," she said one evening, holding up a shard of crystal under the light. "It's like nothing we've ever seen before. If we can replicate its structure, we might be able to create new forms of energy." Bill nodded, though he didn't fully understand the science behind it. What mattered to him was that these crystals represented hope, a way to level the playing field against the Veil. But as much as he wanted to celebrate their success, something gnawed at him. The raid had been dangerous, chaotic, and costly. Was it worth it? Could they keep doing this without losing more people? His thoughts were interrupted by Lisa Monroe entering the lab. She carried a tablet, her expression serious but calm. "Got a minute?" she asked, glancing between Bill and Karen. "Sure," Bill replied, stepping away from the workbench. "What's going on?" Lisa hesitated, then handed him the tablet. "We found something in the crystals. Encrypted data. It looks like the Veil were using them not just for energy, but also for communication." Karen leaned closer, intrigued. "Communication? You mean like messages?" "Exactly," Lisa said. "Our decryption team has been working on it, and they've managed to extract some fragments. It's unsettling." Bill scrolled through the text displayed on the screen. At first it seemed like gibberish, a jumble of symbols and numbers, but as he read further, patterns began to emerge. Fragments of sentences appeared, written in broken English. Words like resource depletion and extinction event caught his attention. "What does it mean?" he asked, looking up at Lisa. She sighed, running a hand through her short hair. "From what we can gather, the Veil aren't attacking us because they see us as a threat. Not entirely, anyway. Their own species is dying. They're running out of resources, and they view humanity as competition. This isn't just about Fiara, it's about survival." The room fell silent. Bill felt a chill run down his spine. He had always assumed the Veil's betrayal stemmed from arrogance or greed. But if Lisa was right, if the Veil truly believed their survival depended on wiping out humanity, then the conflict went deeper than anyone realized. Karen broke the silence. "So what do we do now? Do we negotiate? Try to find common ground?" Lisa shook her head. "Negotiating won't be easy. The Veil leadership sees us as enemies. Convincing them to sit down and talk would take more than we currently have." "But what if there's another way?" Karen pressed. "What if there are Veil who don't agree with this war, who want peace?" Lisa frowned, considering the idea. There are rumors of dissident factions within the Veil ranks, groups who oppose the attacks on humanity, but reaching out to them would be risky. If the Veil government finds out, they'll crush any attempt at rebellion and us, along with it. Bill crossed his arms, his mind racing. For years, he had thought of the Veil as monsters, betrayers, who deserved nothing but hatred. But if Karen was right, if there were Vale willing to seek peace, then maybe there was another path forward. A chance to end the bloodshed without sacrificing everything. We should try, he said finally, surprising even himself. If there's a chance to stop this war without losing more lives, we owe it to ourselves and to Megan to take it. Lisa studied him carefully, weighing his words. Finally, she nodded. All right, but we need proof. Solid evidence that these dissidents exist. Otherwise, we're walking into a trap. Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly to decode more of the encrypted data hidden in the crystals. Each fragment painted a clearer picture of the Vale's desperation. One message stood out, a plea for help from someone identifying themselves as Kale, a member of a faction calling themselves the Lumina. The message included coordinates, suggesting a meeting point deep in uncharted space. It's a risk, Lisa admitted during a briefing with Bill, Karen, and Ryan. But if Kale is telling the truth, this could change everything. Ryan spoke, up for the first time in days, his voice rough with emotion. And if it's a trap, then we go in prepared, Lisa replied firmly. We take a small team, stay mobile, and pull out at the first sign of trouble. No unnecessary risks. Bill glanced at Ryan, seeing the pain still lingering in his eyes. Losing Megan had changed him, made him more cautious. But he also saw resolve, the same fire that had driven them all to fight back. I'm in, Bill said. If this works, it's worth it. Ryan hesitated, then nodded. Me too. Karen reached out, placing a hand on Bill's arm. Be careful, she whispered. Promise me. He squeezed her hand, offering a faint smile. I promise. The journey to the coordinates took several days, the shuttle cutting silently through the vast emptiness of space. Tension filled the cabin as they approached the designated location, a remote asteroid belt orbiting a dying star. The rocks glowed faintly in the dim light, casting eerie shadows across the ship's windows. There, Ryan said, pointing to a blinking signal emanating from one of the larger asteroids. That's got to be it. As they drew closer, a sleek vessel emerged from behind the asteroid, its design unmistakably Vale. Bill's heart raced as the ship hailed them, a voice crackling over the comms. This is Kale. You came. Lisa exchanged a glance with Bill before responding. We did. Prove to us you're who you say you are. A moment passed, then the transmission resumed. Understood. Dock with us. We will explain. The team moved cautiously onto the Vale ship, their weapons ready. Inside, the air was cool and sterile, the walls lined with glowing panels. A figure awaited them in the central chamber, an alien clad in armor similar to the Vale soldiers, but marked with subtle differences. Its mask retracted, revealing a face both alien and strangely human-like, with wide, intelligent eyes. I am Kale, the figure said, bowing slightly. Thank you for trusting me. Bill stepped forward, his grip tightening on his weapon. Why should we trust you, after everything your kind has done? Kale's expression softened, though it was hard to read the emotions behind those alien features. Because I know the cost of this war better than most. My people are dying not just physically, but spiritually. Our leaders cling to power, feeding off fear and hatred. They see no other path but destruction. But there are those of us who believe coexistence is possible. Karen stepped beside Bill, her voice steady. How do we know you're not lying? That you're not setting us up? Kale gestured toward a console, where holographic images flickered to life. Maps, schematics, and intercepted communications revealed plans for future Vale attacks. This is our proof. Use it to protect yourselves. And perhaps, together, we can find a way to end this madness. For a long moment, no one spoke. The weight of Kale's words hung heavy in the air. Finally, Lisa broke the silence. If you're sincere, we'll consider an alliance. But one wrong move, and we'll turn on you faster than you can blink. Kale? nodded solemnly. Fair enough. As they returned to the shuttle, Bill couldn't shake the feeling that they had just taken a step into the unknown. Trusting the veil of an faction, opposing their own kind, felt like walking a tightrope over a bottomless chasm. Yet, as he looked at Karen and Ryan, he saw determination in their eyes. They were willing to try, to hope. Back at Luna Base Alpha, the team shared their findings with the others. Opinions were divided. Some saw Kale as a potential ally, a lifeline in a war that seemed unwinnable. Others, like Mike, remained skeptical, convinced it was a trick. We're gambling everything on a maybe. Mike argued during a heated discussion. What happens if they betray us again? Then we adapt, Bill countered. We fight smarter, harder. But if there's even a chance to stop this war without losing more lives, don't we owe it to ourselves to take it? In the end, Lisa made the final call. We proceed cautiously. Work with Kale, but keep our guard up. This isn't Trusted's strategy. As the debate settled, Bill found himself standing alone in the observation dome once more, staring out at the endless expanse of stars. The galaxy was vast, beautiful, and cruel. Humanity had come so far, only to face extinction at the hands of those they once called allies. Yet, amidst the chaos, there was still hope, a fragile, flickering light that refused to die. End document. *** document. Part 5 of They Turned on Humanity Now. We're stripping their worlds bare. *** Tensions at Luna Base Alpha were high. The discovery of Kale and the Lumina faction had split the group into two camps. Some, like Bill and Karen, believed working with the dissident Veil offered a chance for peace, a way to end the war without further bloodshed. Others, led by Mike, saw it as a dangerous gamble that could lead to disaster. Arguments erupted daily, voices rising in frustration as everyone tried to convince the others of their point of view. Lisa Monroe did her best to keep the peace, but even she struggled to maintain order. She called for a meeting in the main conference room, gathering everyone around the table. The air was thick with unease as she stood at the head of the group, her arms crossed. "Listen up," Lisa began, her tone firm yet calm. "We're all tired, scared, and angry. I get it. But we can't let this divide us. If we're going to survive, we need to work together." Mike leaned forward, his face red with emotion. "Working with the Veil is insane. They betrayed us once. They'll do it again. Why are we even considering this?" Bill shot back, his voice rising. "Because fighting them isn't working. Every raid costs us lives. Megan's gone because of this war. How many more have to die before we realize there's another way?" Karen placed a hand on Bill's arm, trying to calm him. "He's right though," she said softly, addressing the room. "Kale gave us proof. He showed us their plans, their weaknesses. If we team up with the Lumina, maybe we can stop the attacks altogether." Mike shook his head, unconvinced. "And what if it's a trap? What if they're just using us to weaken their own government? Either way, we lose." The argument went on for hours, each side presenting its case. Finally, Lisa stepped in, raising her hands for silence. "Enough. Here's what we're going to do. We'll continue working with Kale for now, but we stay cautious. Any sign of betrayal, and we cut ties immediately. Agreed?" Reluctantly, the group nodded. It wasn't perfect, but it was a compromise. For the time being, humanity would walk the tightrope between trust and suspicion. Days turned into weeks as the alliance with Kale began to take shape. The Lumina provided valuable intelligence, revealing key locations of Veil military outposts and supply depots. With this information, Lisa planned a series of coordinated strikes aimed at crippling the Veil's operations. The goal was simple: hit hard, hit fast, and retreat before reinforcements arrived. Bill and Ryan were assigned to lead one of these missions, targeting a heavily fortified outpost orbiting a distant moon. The stakes were higher than ever. not only because of the danger, but also because failure could ruin any chance of cooperation with the Lumina. As they prepared for launch, Bill felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving that humanity could adapt, evolve, and fight smarter. The night before the mission, Jake approached Bill in their quarters. The boy had grown quieter since arriving at the base, his innocence dimmed by the horrors he'd witnessed. But tonight, his eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Dad," Jake asked, holding up a small device. "What's this?" Bill froze. The object in Jake's hands was unmistakably Veil artifact, sleek and metallic, covered in glowing symbols. "Where did you find that?" he demanded, his voice sharper than intended. "In the lab," Jake replied, shrinking back slightly. "Mom said I shouldn't touch anything, but it looked cool." Bill took the device gently, examining it closely. Something about it felt alive. The symbols shifted and pulsed, as if responding to his presence. He knew instantly that it wasn't just a piece of technology, it was a message. "Karen," Bill shouted, rushing into the lab where she worked, late into the night. She looked up, startled, as he placed the artifact on the table. "Jake found this. Do you know what it is?" Karen studied it carefully, her brow furrowing. "I've never seen anything like it. It's not part of the crystals we brought back from the last raid." As they examined the device, it suddenly activated, projecting a holographic image into the air. A veil figure appeared, its voice distorted but understandable. "To those who seek understanding," it began, "know this: the path to coexistence begins with knowledge. You hold the key to unlocking our shared future." The message ended abruptly, leaving the three of them staring in stunned silence. Karen was the first to speak. "This changes everything. Whoever left this wanted us to see it, to understand them." Bill frowned, his mind racing. But why now? And why us? Before they could answer, an alarm blared through the base. Red lights flashed as a robotic voice announced, "Unauthorized access detected in Sector C." Bill grabbed the artifact and rushed toward the source of the disturbance, Karen and Jake close behind. When they arrived, they found chaos. Soldiers scrambled to contain a breach in one of the storage domes, where stolen Veil equipment was kept under lock and key. In the center of the room stood Jake, wide-eyed and trembling, surrounded by glowing artifacts that had come to life, floating eerily in the air. "What did you do?" Bill asked, his voice sharp with panic. I didn't mean to," Jake stammered. "I just touched one, and then they all started moving." Karen knelt beside him, pulling him close. "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll fix this." But fixing it wouldn't be easy. The artifacts began emitting pulses of energy, causing systems throughout the base to malfunction. Lights flickered, consoles sparked, and communication lines went dead. Amid the confusion, Lisa arrived, her expression grim. "We've got bigger problems," she said. "The Veil know we're here. A fleet is approaching, and they're not sending diplomats." Fear rippled through the group. They had been exposed, possibly by accident, possibly by design. Either way, the clock was ticking. Lisa barked orders, rallying the team to prepare for defense. Bill hesitated, torn between protecting his family and leading the charge against the incoming threat. "Take Jake to safety," Karen urged, gripping his arm. "Please, I'll handle things here." "No," Bill replied firmly. "We stick together, no matter what." As the Veil ships loomed closer, their massive forms blotting out the stars, the humans braced for battle. Kale's voice crackled. "Over comes urgent and apologetic. I warn my people not to act rashly, but fear drives them. I will do what I can to delay them, but you must be ready." Lisa nodded, her jaw set with determination. "Then let's show them what happens when you mess with humanity." The battle that followed was fierce and chaotic. Vaith soldiers descended in waves, their weapons cutting through defenses with terrifying precision. Humans fought back with everything they had, using tactics learned from previous raids and intel provided by the Lumina. Bill and Ryan led a counterattack, pushing deep into enemy lines to disable critical systems. Each step was a gamble, each move a risk, but they pressed on, driven by desperation and resolve. Amid the carnage, Karen worked tirelessly in the lab, analyzing the mysterious artifact Jake had activated. Her hands trembled as she pieced together its purpose. It's a beacon, she realized aloud. A signal meant to bridge the gap between species. If we activate it fully, we might be able to communicate directly with the Veil. But will they listen? Bill asked, doubt heavy in his voice. They have to, Karen replied. Otherwise, none of us make it out of this alive. With no other options left, Karen initiated the sequence, flooding the base with a pulse of energy that reached far beyond the moon. For a moment, everything stopped, the fighting, the shouting, the destruction. Then, slowly, the Veil forces withdrew, retreating into the void. Kale's voice returned over the comms, filled with relief. You've done it. My people have received your message. Now, let us hope they choose wisely. Exhausted but alive, the humans regrouped, their bodies battered but their spirits unbroken. The artifact lay dormant once more, its secrets still partially hidden. Yet, for the first time in months, there was a glimmer of hope, a fragile thread connecting to species teetering on the brink of annihilation. As Bill held Jake close, watching the stars shimmer in the distance, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The road ahead would be long and uncertain, but they had taken the first step. Together, perhaps, they could forge a new future, one built not on hatred, but on understanding. End document.